Assalamu alaikum. If you go back and you look at previous videos posted here by me, I did a fairly in-depth series of 4 videos on how Marshall McLuhan's concept of the importance of the medium that carries a message applies even more to our modern media than the media of the 1960s, which is the milieu in which he wrote, projecting astonishingly presciently into the future of social communication. So it was done first as videos on TikTok, and then the write-up or transcript, with modifications, was published on my Substack blog, which there's a link to my Substack in my bio, if anyone's interested. So I received a really engaging comment on my Substack article, and just wanted to quote a small portion of it. It's worth reading the full comment and respond with a few clarifications. The comment was from the author of a rather fascinating, excellent existential philosophy Substack called The Existential Pulse. And the author and commentator is Andrew Robinson. So here's the quote, which is a small portion of his comment. In the article, "The Gulf War did not take place," Jean Baudrillard argues that the media does not simply deliver reality, it produces a hyper-reality in which events appear only as their representations. So what do you say, he says, goes on, he says, if we extrapolate his point and say that Gaza live streams, TikToks, and viral clips are never simply raw or unmediated, but always already part of a single fast-moving environment where journalism, propaganda, humor, gossip, and atrocity circulate together. From this, so there he's quoting my article. And he goes on and he says, from this perspective, the footage risks being aestheticized and consumed like any other fragment, so that atrocity becomes simulation and is absorbed into spectacle rather than breaking through it. So that's his criticism, basically saying that what if, according to Jean Baudrillard, there's a hyper-reality, or you can say a fake reality, in which events appear only as a representation, not as what they actually are, but as a representation generated by the coverage in the media. So if you don't know of him, Jean Baudrillard was a French sociologist and author of a book called Simulacra and Simulation. And the book is seen sitting on Neo's home desk in the movie The Matrix when he's visited by the hacker with the white rabbit tattoo on their shoulder. The book is fascinating, as is his Gulf War article, where he says the Gulf War did not take place. Because, in other words, the Gulf War did not take place. We only saw a representation of it in the media, not the actuality of what happened. So the strange thing is, I was actually thinking when composing my original articles that I should include Baudrillard. But then I felt the videos in the article were getting a little too long and unwieldy, so maybe Baudrillard's approach and framing could be kept for a future time. Also, I felt McLuhan's thoughts were more suited for decentralized social media streams showing real-time destruction of Gaza, whereas Baudrillard fit more into the model of television and official briefings in earlier wars, broadcasts that centralized and sanitized the narrative, as the legacy media continues to do today, creating a simulation showing Israel as self-defense, Palestinians as subhuman aggressors, as per Israeli regime official statements. So the form, short clips, live streams, and endless scroll, changes the message through immediacy, through intimacy, and the medium has facilitated a partial but very significant collapse of censorship attempts. So it's the collapse of censorship that concerns the perpetrators. This is why we see Netanyahu going on TV quite recently and calling for monitoring and censoring or reshaping of the algorithms on TikTok and other social media. It's an acknowledgement that while they control legacy media, they don't yet control the new mediums. They also have a voice in the new mediums, but not the controlling voice that they want and the shutting down of opposition voices. McLuhan hints that this is because the medium, decentralized social media, is shaping global consciousness more than the censored and censorious legacy reporting of events. So the shift from centralized TV war to decentralized live stream marks a massive change in how genocide is witnessed. So Israeli regime and Western outlets attempt to curate reality. They talk about precision strikes, Hamas tunnels, human shield narratives, most moral in the army in the world, etc. And Palestinians resist simulation by directly broadcasting bombings, bodies, funerals, children pulled from rubble, starvation, daily life under a ruthless and brutal occupation. And ironically, the Israeli regime breaks the simulation as well through their own genocidal statements and videos showing IDF soldiers laughing mockingly while killing, abusing, raping, or torturing Palestinian civilians. They undo their own attempts at managing and manipulating their narrative the moment they go on social media or even on official broadcasts where their leaders in their statements make genocidal statements. But if I was to include Baudrillard, it would be to say, as Andrew points out, that even these raw images risk becoming a new hyper-reality, as Baudrillard puts it. So endless shocking images that circulate invoking outrage, but they risk numbing viewers so that suffering becomes just more content. Now, McLuhan showed how platforms, TV versus TikTok, changed the entire battlefield of perception. And I suppose Baudrillard showed how images, curated or raw, risk becoming the war. Now, for Palestinians, war, or rather genocide, is material and human devastation, agony, loss, and endless grief. But for much of the world, genocide is the stream. But it also breaks out of the stream. In McLuhan's idea of a shared nervous system engendered by the new mediums, we feel a shock to our very nerves at witnessing so directly unjust inflicted suffering. And this can, in many cases, alter something within us, which McLuhan hints at and which I talk about in the article and in the videos. So yes, the flood of images risks being consumed as spectacle, as Baudrillard says, but unlike the Gulf War, this genocide is being shown uncensored and unmediated by its victims. And so the phrase, as he uses in the Gulf War, did not take place, that did not take place doesn't apply because everything, he says that because everything is mediated through screens, and that's the approach that he raises. But this is shifted and altered with the new delivery mechanisms, the new mediums. So for now, the medium really is the message. If you want more detail on all of this, check out my Substack article or the 4 videos that are here on TikTok. They're quite engaging points that McLuhan raises, and which I elaborate on, applying it specifically to Gaza, and also referencing the Quran as part of it. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for your time.